The NFL offseason is in full gear now, and it is time to look ahead. What are the New York Jets going to do? They have a bunch of big decisions to make. We are seeing the coaching staff come together, but what about in terms of some new blood, some new talent to bring into this roster, to bring into Florham Park, to actually make us proud, hopefully, to be New York Jets fans once again? We're going to talk about quarterbacks, how the defense might change, and how the offense might change, and how that might affect what the Jets are going to do in terms of offseason acquisitions. Guys, you know what's up. It's Wednesday night. It's 7 p.m., and we are live. And well, welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I am your party host, Watsu-K99, here for our weekly Wednesday Night Live extravaganza. Glad you are all here. Glad you are joining me tonight. Hope everybody is having a fantastic week, and we have a bunch of stuff to get into. We're going to get into a whole bunch of Jets stuff. There are a few things to talk about in the world of New York sports. I might even give you a minute on the Super Bowl, just a minute or two, because I'm sure you all are going to forgive me if I bask in the glow of the New England Patriots meltdown just a little bit. Can I enjoy it just a little bit? Just a little bit. I'm still going to enjoy it just a little bit. I've got to. I've just got to. All right. So before we get into everything, let's say hello to a couple of people. We've got Pa2K99 representing New Brunswick, New Jersey, pretty much anywhere between New Brunswick and Brooklyn. He represents that entire region. Hope you get to go to Harold's and have another pastrami sandwich too. Yes, indeed. We've got the great Grandizer here. Yes, Baba Booey to you as well. We are going to get into, we're going to get into the coaching staff for sure. We'll talk about some of the recent hires. It's a little bit hard to grade it when you don't know who too many of these people are. All I know is last year's staff and the staff before that, it was unacceptable. Kick the Pats, flat the Pats. I might deflate the Pats. That's something that they're very experienced in doing. All right, we're going to get into all of that, but first of all, let's talk about what's on my mind in a little segment that we like to call 3 and Out. So, first thing that I want to bring up is Olympic hockey. The men are in action. They started today. It's really the only Olympic event I care to watch. Sweden beat Italy. That game was much closer than expected. Slovakia upsetting Finland, the defending gold medalists from 4 years ago. Of course, there were no NHL players in the Olympics 4 years ago. But you've got the USA opening on Thursday, 3 p.m. against Latvia. And a big game, Canada versus Czechia, formerly Czech Republic, formerly Czechoslovakia. That game is at 10:40 Eastern time. That's going to be a fantastic opening round game. Personally, of course, I want the U.S. to win, but honestly, anybody but Canada. Really, anybody but Canada at this point. The U.S. women, if you care, they're doing fantastic. They just wiped Canada out 5-0. So they are dominating through group play. As for the New York Knicks, well, I said last week they had a tough 3-game stretch coming up against Denver, Detroit, and Boston. I wanted 2 wins. That's exactly what they did. They beat Denver in double overtime, got beat down by Detroit, although the Knicks did rest 3 starters in that game. Then they just laid waste to the Celtics in Boston on Sunday, topping off just an amazing Sunday for those just wonderful, big-hearted people up there in New England. Didn't your heart just bleed for him all day long? Painful. But I am loving the addition of Jose Alvarado. Brings amazing energy. He's small, but he's relentless. You know, Jose Alvarado plays like a mother-in-law. Constant nagging and constant harassment. As a matter of fact, I see a little bit of John Starks in him. I haven't seen a Nick play like that since Starks. Maybe he's not quite the outside shooter, but that relentlessness, I love watching that in basketball, and I feel like it's something you don't see often enough in the NBA. Yes, they lost to a terrible Indiana team at home in overtime on Tuesday. It sucked, but now you see that, and all of a sudden, oh, the Knicks are frauds. I don't trust the Knicks. Like, one loss somehow means more than 9 wins, I guess. But the Knicks are in Philly tonight. That will be a big game. And let's spend a minute here on the New York Mets. Francisco Lindor needs surgery for a broken left hamate bone. That's 6 weeks on the shelf. So what that means is we are 6 weeks out from opening day. So I could see a realistic scenario where maybe he misses the first week of the season. It wouldn't exactly be devastating. Better it happens before Valentine's Day. So he could be back for opening day. And the main thing is, and we've learned this with baseball players, you can heal from the bone being removed. Basically, it's a hook-shaped bone just below your pinky, kind of in the palm. That's kind of where your hamate bone is. But it takes time for the power to come back. And I remember Francisco Alvarez, he had a hamate bone injury last year, and it took about that much time. So if Lindor can play after the first week, that's fine. But it does take time for the body to adjust, to heal from the stitches, and all of that good stuff. But the crazy thing is, it's not just Francisco Lindor. Jackson Holliday of the Orioles and Corbin Carroll of the Diamondbacks, they've got the same broken bone as well. They're going to need surgery. I swear to you, if it wasn't for baseball, none of us would know what this bone even is. We wouldn't even know it exists. Okay. And on a side note, you've got Juan Soto shifting to left field. So I guess what that means is you have Luis Robert and Tyrone Taylor in center field. So then are the Mets counting on Carson Bench to play right field? Are they going to move Brett Beatty there? This MJ Melendez guy they just signed for $1.5 million? So it seems like the Mets are deciding we need to make some changes. We may not be quite as good at preventing runs as we were planning on. So Soto to left, that's what he'll be doing in the World Baseball Classic. I got no real issue with that because as big as right field is in Citi Field anyway, you actually need your best defender in center and your second best defender in right. I'm fine putting Soto out there. All right. I see the great Scott Foster. Yep. Here's to you, Scott. Can't tell you there's beer in here, but here's to you, brother. Swig of water for the working man and woman. I see we got a good group of people in the chat tonight and hanging out in the background. Feel free to leave a comment, a question, anything that's on your mind. This is a whole lot more fun when I get to interact with you. We get to go back and forth. But just in case you're new, please please subscribe. We do the show every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. All right, guys, it is time to get into a little bit of NFL. So how about let's before we get into the Jet stuff specifically, let's just take a moment to enjoy this, shall we? I think we should. Congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks, to Sam Darnold, to Jason Myers, to Leonard Williams and company for defeating the New England Patriots. And I got to tell you, I thought Seattle would make the playoffs this year. I didn't think they would have the number one seed. I didn't think they'd come out of the NFC, and I didn't think they'd win the Super Bowl. All the credit, and it shows again. You got the right coach. It doesn't matter if it's an offensive coach or a defensive coach. Good coaches will win. But we have to point out two things in particular about the Super Bowl. And number one is the immortal Will Campbell allowing the most pressures in a playoff game with 14 pressures allowed. That's the most since 2018. For the whole postseason, he allowed 29 pressures. That is an all-time record. I do I don't know. I try not to get into all these specific measurables when evaluating prospects. Like, oh, this guy's arm length is 32 3/4 inches. That's not long enough. But 32 7/8 might be enough. It's like, who decided that you need this much arm length in order to be a functional NFL player? But I got to tell you, it mattered in this game. I mean, Will Campbell was so bad, even Michael Clemens could have beaten him off the edge. Maybe even Braden McGregor. I don't know. So, but the Patriots are saying he's going to play left tackle. He's staying at left tackle. He had a ligament injury in one of his knees. Well, if that's the case, he probably should have been playing anyway. All I can tell you, I'm glad the Jets drafted Olu Fashanu a couple of years ago so that Armand Membu would be a natural fit at right tackle. Thank you very much, New England. We appreciate it. Scott, how many ex-Jets got a ring with Seattle? Yeah, it was Darnold, it was Myers, and it was Williams. I think those are your three, right? I don't think there was anybody else. There's nobody else I could think of. I'll do a quick check here. There might be one random practice squad guy somewhere. I see Nick Immanwari's photo. Man, I wanted him on the Jets so bad. Just the timing didn't work out. Let's see. So there were the three that I mentioned. I don't think there's anybody else. There's nobody else on the offense. Oh yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence. There you go. Oh, there's another one. Chaz Surratt, special teams linebacker. So that's your other one. That'll be a future trivia question. Who are the 4 Seahawks to earn that? Yeah, so it is actually 4. You can't leave out the immortal Chaz Surratt. So to the Surratt family, if you're watching, we want to make sure that that Chaz gets the credit that he deserves. So the other thing we have to point out is Kenneth Walker. Amazing game, Super Bowl MVP. You know, Breece Hall has widely been considered the top free agent running back that's going to be available on the market this offseason. You wonder with this game, has Walker surpassed him? You know, a lot of people have thought, Kansas City, perfect fit for Breece Hall. Maybe they want Kenneth Walker if Walker hits the market. And it's not just Breece, it's not just Walker. You also have Travis Etienne. You have Javonte Williams. You have Rico Dowdle. You have Kenneth Gainwell. And this is supposed to be a pretty good draft class for running backs as well. So all I'm trying to tell you is if the Jets do lose Breece Hall, if it does come to that, and I still think they will keep him, there are other fish in the sea. All right. So, guys, let's get into a little bit of New York Jets news. And I'm feeling a chant tonight. I'm feeling pretty good. So, everybody, say it proud, say it loud, let it go! All right, well, the first thing we're going to talk about, one more thing I do want to mention. Let's take a look at that schedule, that Patriots schedule for 2026. We talked about how it was a cupcake schedule, how they only beat, 1 or 2 teams during the regular season who had over a 500 record. And we were right. And now you look at what they have next year. You got your 6 division games. They're home games, and the teams I have marked with asterisks, I want to point out, are playoff teams, okay? So, Buffalo, Miami, the Jets. They're hosting Denver, revenge spot. They're hosting the Raiders, coming in with Fernando Mendoza. You've got the Packers, you've got the Vikings, and you've got the Steelers. Then you get the extra road game. AFC teams play 9 road games next year. Buffalo, Miami, and the Jets. You're going to Soldier Field to face the Bears. You're going to Detroit. You're going to Kansas City. I know both those teams missed the playoffs, but there's no reason to think that they won't bounce back, especially the Lions. Then you're going to LA to face the Chargers, though it should be San Diego. You get the rematch in Seattle. And then you're going to Jacksonville to face a very dynamic Jaguars offense. Patriots ain't going to have too many cupcakes next year. They're about the only games they could really count on for wins are the 2 Jet games right now. So, yeah, so the Patriots have a lot to prove. All right, we're gonna get it. I got to get into Darren Lee a little bit. Not that I want to, but I think it's something to talk about. So he was charged in his girlfriend's murder after her body was found in a house in Tennessee. So according to the local newscasts, on February the 5th, they went to a residence to a report of somebody who was not responding, who was not active, nothing. So first responders located the girl. They attempted life-saving measures, CPR, various things, but she did pass away from her injuries. So the detectives have ruled that the death was because of a homicide. Blunt force trauma was the cause of death. She had, think about this, a broken neck, a stab wound, bruising, and a bite mark, a broken neck. And there was blood scattered all over the house. It was nasty. And her boyfriend is Darren Lee, former Jets first-round pick. He was taken into custody at the scene, and this was certainly not his first offense. Lee was arrested for assault and domestic violence in Dublin back in 2023. He pleaded guilty to a lesser offense in 2025. That resulted less than 12 months ago. That resulted in Lee spending 90 days in jail, it was a 90-day jail sentence with 88 days suspended and was put on probation through February 2027. Well, I guess he violated that probation. And now Lee has been charged with first-degree murder, tampering with evidence as well, and prosecutors are actually seeking the death penalty. Just about as terrible a situation as you could have, really. As terrible as it gets. The next court date for Lee will be March 9th. Until then, he will be in jail. There is no bond. So that is what we have. Grandizer, what have you learned? What have Jet fans learned from Seattle winning the Super Bowl? I think one of the things is you don't necessarily need an elite quarterback to win, but you got to be elite somewhere. And if it's not quarterback, it better be your defense. But here's the other thing I'm going to tell you. You know how many turnovers the Seahawks had on offense in the playoffs? That many. 0. They had as many turnovers in the playoffs as the Jets had interceptions all season. So you know what? You play smart fundamental football and you don't beat yourself. That goes a long way towards being able to win football games. Let's be honest, for all those years with Belichick, and people can kiss the ass of the quarterback if they want, I think it's ridiculous. But give them this. They didn't make mistakes. They didn't take dumb penalties. They didn't turn the ball over all that much. Okay? They played fundamentally sound football. That's why they were able to win so many games that they were. And that oftentimes comes down to good coaching. But you better also have an organization that is in harmony. The front office sees what the coach wants. They find out what the coach wants. They go get it. All of that's got to be working together in harmony. I will say this again, and maybe this is my blind faith, but I believe the Jets can be a winning franchise with Woody Johnson as the owner. They've done it before. They could do it again. But you have to have the right people and the right systems in place. You can have the right GM, which I will argue till my dying day the Jets had recently, but you have to have the right coaches. They didn't have the right coaches. You didn't have the right pieces in there to develop a quarterback, to develop talent. And when that happens, you pretty much have to clean house. So that's the thing. Good fundamentals, synergy, all of that, and you got to be elite somewhere. Those are 3 things that I'm seeing. You don't have to score 50 points a game. You really don't. Even though this is an offensive-minded league, when it comes down to the playoffs, when it comes down to that time of year, you still have to play a little old school sometimes when, you can't throw 30, 40, 50-yard bombs down the field. So that's my opinion on that. The great David D., how you doing? Greetings to you, my friend. Hope you're having a good week. Scott, Brady never won a Super Bowl without a top 7 defense, so I heard. And not only that, he always had an elite offensive line that gave him 9 hours to throw every pass. That's just a fact. That's just a fact of life. Matt Light, Logan Mankins, all these different players, David and all these different players who were able to block for him that kept him upright. It's true. When did Brady ever elevate a so-so team? Never. Not once. He went to Tampa Bay because he knew it was a ready-made team. And that Super Bowl, Tampa Bay's defense won it because they beat the hell out of Patrick Mahomes. Brady just came along for the ride the way Peyton Manning did in his last Super Bowl. Scott Foster, and elite special teams. Well, we got that down, and I think you all know why we have elite special teams, right? I think you all know why. It's because of this man, Chris Banjo. All right, there we go. We're just doing a little banjo today. Yeah, just a little banjo. Just a little banjo. All right. Well, speaking of former Jets being in the news, oh boy, what happened? What happened to the left there, Adam? What happened? Coach Gase, who I am ashamed to share the same first name as, he is back in the NFL as a passing game assistant with the Chargers. If I'm Justin Herbert, I'm asking for a trade now. So think about this. Adam Gase has a job. Nathaniel Hackett has a job. Mike LaFleur promoted to head coach. All these Jets offensive coordinator. Brian Schottenheimer became a head coach last year in Dallas. Dow Loggins, what is he going to get a job next? I was going to joke. Maybe he'll get the Philly OC job. Oh my gosh, all these failed Jets offensive coordinators. Life is actually peachy for them now. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the offense and about Frank Reich. So I wanted to talk about his tendencies, what he likes to do, who that's going to benefit, who that might actually hurt as well. So one of the first things we have to know about Frank Reich, I'm just checking to see if there's any news here. Yeah, not really seeing anything too huge. Okay. So one thing about Frank Reich, he likes to run a lot of 11 personnel. So 1 running back, 1 tight end. Now in 2025, throughout the whole NFL, 11 personnel was used on 57% of offensive plays. So it really is the bread and butter, standard offense. In 2023, when Frank Reich was with Carolina, they finished second in the league. They used 11 personnel 87% of the time. 7 out of 8 plays, Frank Reich used the 11. Okay? The only team that used it more was the LA Rams with Sean McVay. They ran 11 personnel 95% of the time. Now, what did the Jets do last year? Well, with Tanner Engstrand, the Jets used 11 personnel 67% of the time. That was the third highest behind the Buccaneers and the Titans. So the Jets already use 11 personnel extensively. We've talked about this. It's like maybe they could use Breece and Braylon on the same play. I know Braylon went out for the season early, but rarely did you see 2 running backs at the same time. I'm not counting Andrew Beck. He's a different category. So it looks like we would be seeing more of the same in that situation. So Frank Reich will use 3 wide receiver sets quite often. Don't count on a lot of multiple tight end sets being used here. So what that tells me is the Jets are going to need 2 legitimate wide receivers unless A.D. Mitchell can emerge as that slot guy. I'm going to talk about Mitchell in a moment. Maybe this helps Isaiah Williams because Williams was the primary slot receiver in 2025. All right. He had 147 routes. He ran out of the slot, basically 2/3 of the time. So Williams was the primary slot receiver. Now, if he's going to do that, do you also want him returning as much as he is? Because now he would be a more integral part of the Jets offense. So what does Frank Reich envision for Isaiah Williams? That is something that I am very curious to find out. But the thing with A.D. Mitchell, I don't know about his future, how he's going to be used. We know Mitchell's biggest strength is going vertical. Okay. He is a field stretcher. The kind of plays Frank Reich typically calls are crossing routes, drag routes, dig routes, like run 10 yards down the field and then cross or go out. He doesn't want to go straight down the field. He wants to, use this receiver to create open space for this receiver. He likes a very cerebral kind of offense. I don't know if that is going to suit A.D. Mitchell's skill set necessarily. Okay, so we already know the Jets need at least 1 legitimate wide receiver. In fact, if they don't draft a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, I would be very, very surprised. But they might actually need 2, legitimate wide receivers to really make this offense work because I don't know if the Jets have the personnel that Frank Reich is going to want. I don't know. If he believes in Williams, that might work, but I could see A.D. Mitchell being that 4th receiver. Then you throw in John Mechie, throw in Arian Smith. I think Arian Smith is not going to be long for this world. I think Arian Smith is going to be a special teams player. And you know what? If he can learn returning a little bit, I'm good with that. We already know he can down a punt. We saw him do that. In fact, that's about the best thing he did last year in his rookie season. So it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of rope these incumbent wide receivers get. And I'll get into the other part in a moment. I want to get into Grandizer's comment. Chargers got 2 failed Dolphins coaches, McDaniel and now Gase. Yep. I can understand McDaniel getting a job, but Gase, yeah, I don't know who overrates Gase anymore, but I know you've got some strong feelings. Hey, Grandizer, at least Gase took your team to the playoffs. You would have loved it when I was hanging out with the Virginia Jets fans when I was still living in Newport News. It was the Gase special when they beat when Gronkowski couldn't make that tackle, like on that return, I believe it was. We were celebrating like the Jets just made the playoffs. We could not stop celebrating that the Dolphins beat the Patriots. I just want you to know that. Billy, you've got to wonder, hey, Billy, you've got to wonder if Dante Moore would have considered going back to college if he knew Frank Reich and Musgraves were going to be hired by the Jets. Yeah, maybe he would have been. It's very possible, but I will say this with Dante Moore. It's a kid who decided he wanted to transfer and sit for a year because he didn't think he was ready. Dante Moore is a very calculated, meticulous type of guy. I don't consider him much of a risk taker. Okay? I'm not necessarily talking about him on the field. I'm talking about his approach to his career, his approach to life. I still think he would have stayed at Oregon. I think deep down he knew he wasn't quite there yet. And I don't think it helped that the Jets would be the team that would have been slotted to draft him. And the Jets would have drafted Dante Moore. I have no doubt about it. But I think ultimately it's going to work out best for Dante Moore, and I think it's going to work out best for the Jets. Grandizer, the only credit I give Gase was running Jay Ajayi so much in 2016 that I gave Tannehill his best year as a Finn, but Gase could not sustain that. Horrible drafting in 2017 and 2018. Okay, now you got me curious. Now I got to look up the Dolphins draft history, which I didn't have that on my bingo card for tonight's show, but let's see. All right, so 27, let's see how many notable players there are here. 2017, okay, so they had 7 draft picks and only 1 is still in the league, and that's that guy, Devon Godcho, I believe is how you say his name. The defensive tackle, I think he wound up with the Patriots, didn't he? Yeah, I think he left the Dolphins. I remember this guy as a Patriot. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, 2 years in Miami, then went to New England for 3 years. Yeah, then went to New England. Oh, actually, no, 4 years in Miami. 4 years in Miami, 4 years in New England, then he went to New Orleans. He's the only active player in the NFL from that 2017 draft. All right, so that was 2017. And who are some of these guys that I'm looking at? Charles Harris, Raekwon McMillan, I barely remember him. Cordray Tankersley, Isaac Asiata. Those are terrible. 2018 was actually a good draft. Minkah Fitzpatrick, although you traded him, brought him back. Mike Gesicki in the 2nd round. Jerome Baker in the 3rd round. Durham Smythe in the 4th round. Jason Sanders, 2018. Oh, Kalen Ballage, ex-Jet. Cornell Armstrong still in the 2018 was a good draft for you. Yeah, 28. Nothing wrong with 20. It's just that, Fitzpatrick left. Gesicki is gone. But yeah, I wouldn't kill the 2018 draft, to be honest with you. I really wouldn't. But that's me. I'd be okay with a draft like that. All right. A huge thing some of us use today. Gase took another coach's team, Joe Philbin, to the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, Joe Philbin, I still remember some of those Hard Knocks series. Yeah, that was he was not there. I mean, could you compare Philbin and Mangini? I mean, maybe, but ultimately the coach has to get them there. The coach's job is typically to coach. It is not to acquire players, in my mind. But yeah, that defensive tackle. Yep. Charles Harris, one of the biggest Finns busts of all time. Yeah, I didn't even recognize the name, to be honest with you. Yeah, that was not ringing a bell for me, my man. Could more changes? No, it's too late for a player to come out at this point. Yeah, the Moore declared he was staying in school on the deadline day, so it is too late. Yeah, so he is going back to Oregon, and that is not going to change. I guess the only difference is Trinidad Chambliss, because everything's just tied up with him. I mean, does this kid, Trinidad Chambliss, I mean, I'm interested in him, in drafting him at some point, but does he even want to play in the NFL right now? With all this stuff going on, I don't have a very good feeling about him. I don't know. Talent-wise, I'm very intrigued, but it's a little bit weird. All right, another thing about Frank Reich. So with Reich in Indianapolis from 2018 to 2022, the running backs were used in the passing game. Breece Hall, I think we've complained a lot, has not been used enough in the passing game. Running backs averaged 117 targets and 663 receiving yards per season. That's over a 5-year span with Frank Reich. So those two numbers would be career highs for Breece Hall. So I think Breece Hall should be very intrigued. If you're wondering about the future of Breece Hall, how the Frank Reich hire might affect him, I think it's going to be a very good fit, potentially. Because if Breece wants to be used in the backfield, this is a very good opportunity for that to happen. Oh, you had a chance at Dallas Goedert with the tight end. Yeah. Gesicki's more of the wide receiver type, and Goddard does everything. Yeah. Billy, just tag Breece. You know what? I got to be honest with you. I mean, that's like $12 million, and then if you lose him, you don't get any compensation. I would just try to sign him. I really would. I mean, I think you could sign Breece for $10 million right now, 10 to 10.5 million. If you give him 3 years and maybe a 4th year that you could get out of easily, I would do that. I don't know if I would go to like 12 million for him. So if we I'm going to look up running back salaries, and I've done this exercise before. I know Christian McCaffrey makes over. I think Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, they make the most. They make the most, and they do by far. So if you look at the average per year value, Derrick Henry is third, 15 million. Barkley 1, McCaffrey 2, Henry 15, Jonathan Taylor 14. Alvin Kamara is fifth at 12.25 million. Josh Jacobs is sixth. He makes 12 million. Okay. And then also making 10 million, you have James Cook, Kyron Williams, and Aaron Jones. So when you factor that in, if we're paying Breece Hall like a top 10 running back, like right after that, you have the Joe Mixons, the James Connors. I think Breece is very worthy of a deal somewhere in the $10 to $11 million range. Okay. So if you were to give him, say, $11 million a year, 4 years, that's $44 million total. And let's say about 25 guaranteed, something like that. I would give him that deal. I'd make him a top 10 paid running back. I don't think I would make him a top 5, but I would definitely go top 10. So I would try to work out a contract. Why not? Why not? So that's my thought. So let's talk about a couple of other additions to the coaching staff. We've added Alfredo Roberts as the tight end coach, also coming over from Pittsburgh. Roberts has spent the last 5 years coaching the Steelers tight ends under Mike Tomlin. And this is a period which covered the drafting and development of Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. And I got to tell you, I might be more excited about Darnell Washington than it would be Pat Freiermuth. I was expecting more from Freiermuth in his career. I feel like he hasn't quite been the impactful tight end that a lot of people thought. But Washington, he could go. He could go, man. But outside of Pittsburgh, Roberts has had stops with the Chargers, the Colts, the Buccaneers, the Browns, the Jaguars. He was tight end coach at all of those spots. And before that, he spent 5 years playing tight end with the Chiefs and the Cowboys. I guess we can't hire Mike Tomlin, but we could bring in his disciples. So going back to the 11 personnel, I think this also hurts Jeremy Ruckert. I mentioned A.D. Mitchell. I think this is going to hurt Jeremy Ruckert. I think a lot of Jet fans will be good with that. I really can anticipate a possible change here in the offensive identity. I think Aaron Glenn is not necessarily married to a running offense, but he knew the quarterback situation was so shaky that they had to run the ball. And then if it didn't work, which was often the case, because the other teams were just loading up the box, trying to stop it, and that defense, was basically an abortion. They fell behind. All of a sudden, they had to throw the ball. It takes the running game right out. The Jets were very, very limited in what they could do last year. So, to me, when you have Jeremy Ruckert not playing as much, a lot of Jet fans will be good with that. But I think with Alfredo Roberts, it's going to make Mason Taylor better than Ruckert, I think, in every respect. But I will give Ruckert credit. I thought last year was his best season. But I think for a while we've been when we had Ron Middleton here, we loved Ron Middleton. If it moves, hit it. If it don't move, hit it. But what tight ends developed? Zach Kuntz. Oh, Grandizer. Are you excited to have Zach Kuntz on the Dolphins? That's right. The Dolphins signed Zach Kuntz. That's right. I didn't create the graphic for it because it just didn't occur to me. But what can I say? Zach Kuntz, we thank you for your time, but He gone. He's on his way to Miami. But he didn't develop. Jeremy Ruckert didn't develop. No tight end developed. So Alfredo Roberts has a very proven track record, and I like that. And as we get into more of these coaches, I think we're going to see that. So then we bring in Bill Musgrave. This was the big. Well, we'll get into that in a moment. Bill Musgrave hired as quarterback coach. He is experienced, to say the least. Offensive coordinator with 6 teams: Denver, Oakland, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Carolina, and Philadelphia. So this is not a running backs coach who's coming in to coach quarterbacks. This is a legitimate quarterback coach. There we go. Now I'm feeling good about that. I see the great Nick Shine is here. Nick, I hope you're doing well. Hope you are feeling better, my friend. Hope I'll be able to go on with you soon. Nick, you getting off? Yeah, Nick, you're off from work tonight? Yeah. Usually Nick has to work evenings, so it's a little bit hard to work out the schedule. But Ruckert, he developed into sort of I thought at least a somewhat competent NFL player. By no means would I ever want him to be our starter, but at least we saw a modicum bit of improvement last year. There was something there. He wasn't dropping passes. He wasn't taking penalties. He wasn't a complete liability. So that's an improvement. Hey, Rusty Spooner, how you doing? Alfredo Roberts also won a Super Bowl when he played for Dallas. Yeah. How about them Cowboys, right? Pot 2K99? Yeah. All right. So And another couple things with Bill Musgrave. Some of the notable, I mentioned where he had coached, but he worked with Matt Ryan the first 3 years of his career, not as offensive coordinator, but he was there in Atlanta. He worked with Derek Carr in 15-16, was with Cleveland the last 3 years. So I guess technically Bill Musgrave coached 2 Pro Bowl quarterbacks. I mean, tell me if I'm lying, I'm dying. 2 Pro Bowl quarterbacks, including Shedeur Sanders. Man, is there a bigger disgrace than the Pro Bowl? Unbelievable. All right. So let's go on, man. I'm seeing a lot of anti-Derek Carr comments here. Interesting. Okay. Well, we're going to address those quarterbacks right now. So let's talk about the trade candidates first. Then we'll get into some of the free agents. Now, I'm going to talk about Jacoby Brissett first. We talked about him a little bit last week. Now, he spent 3 years in Frank Reich's system. In 2019, he got it. I know that's forever ago, but he got a chance to start 15 games. In those 15 games with Reich, he went 7-8. That is, by the way, the best of his run as a starting quarterback. He completed 61% of his passes, 2,942 yards, 18 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions, added 228 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. Now, the critics of Brissett will point to the 2025 record, 1-11 with the Cardinals. I got to be honest, though. What did Brissett have? Who played better than Jacoby Brissett on the Cardinals last year? You know, they were in the best division in the NFL, and it's not even debatable. Okay? I mean, my gosh. That's like being in a division like in the Olympics with the U.S., Canada, and Russia, and you're like, you're like Kazakhstan. The Kazakhstan hockey team or something like that. Brissett is just a better pure quarterback than Kyler Murray. And if the Cardinals are willing to trade him, who knows what Michael Floor's mindset is? I would definitely be offering a draft pick to bring him in. I absolutely would. And I'll give you the numbers that Brissett put up with Arizona. 64.9 completion percentage. That's his career high as a full-time starter. 3,366 yards. 23 touchdowns. 8 interceptions, both of those career highs, 6.9 yards per attempt, also a career high. Brissett was peaking last year, throwing to Trey McBride, to Marvin Harrison, and especially to Michael Wilson. That's a wide receiver. That's a wide receiver that came out of nowhere that nobody was talking about. Okay? And it's also worth noting the Cardinals receivers dropped 16 passes from Brissett, and he had an offensive line that, if you want to go by PFF, ranked 29th in pass blocking efficiency. They gave up 236 pressures on 746 snaps. Translation, he had crap to work with. Okay? Brissett put up career high numbers in a bunch of different categories, playing with terrible players and working with coaches who did not know what they were doing. Jonathan Gannon is not a head coach. He's barely, in my mind, even a defensive coordinator. Okay? But Brissett played very well. I honestly wonder how eager are the Cardinals really going to be to trade him. But if I'm them, it's like, if I could get something for him rather than lose him for nothing, I got to think about it. And the other trade candidates, we talked about Mac Jones. I'm intrigued by it. You know, we hear the rumors that the Niners are going to they're going to have to be blown away in order to make the trade. I think it's just talk. I mean, Brock Purdy is their starter. There's no way around it. And I think they would happily take a mid-round draft pick. If nothing else works out, would I bring in Mac Jones? I would, because you know what? Not that he's the best quarterback in the NFL, but I know he brings some attitude. I know he brings some snarl. I know he's got a chip on his shoulder the size of the Empire State Building. Okay? And I'm good with that. You know, it's personal to him. It's like, wow, wait, wouldn't it be 3 teams that gave up on him? Wouldn't it be? Right? I think so. Yeah. Let me double check this. See, these random thoughts come to me in the middle of a show, and all of a sudden it's like, no, I got to look this stuff up now. Yeah, he was with the Jaguars. I knew he was somewhere between the Patriots and the Niners. That's right. So 3 different teams have given up on this kid who's 20. I call him a kid because he's 27 years old. All right? I'm not saying he's going to lead you to the Super Bowl like Sam Darnold would, but if you could pry him out of San Francisco, I am very interested in that. But between Jones, Brissett, I'm very interested in one of those trades. Yeah, Rusty Harrison did a lot better with Brisket throwing him the ball. Yeah, with Brisket. Billy, we need a wise-ass quarterback. We need Pavia and a step stool. Pavia is 5'9". I have no interest. Again, I don't like the way he conducted himself after the Heisman ceremony. I'm sorry. Yes, I want a little bit of swagger, a little bit of that. That was just downright immaturity. And I'm not willing to draft an immature quarterback. I'm much more willing to take a chance on a quarterback who has shown signs of immaturity, but has been starting to figure it out as of late. There is a difference. So I know that it's like the Pavia posse out there, right? Like Pavia is, how do I describe it? He's like kimchi or something like that, or rum raisin ice cream. Not a lot of people like him, but the ones that do, he's their guy. That's the favorite. They can't get enough of him. That is the weirdest comparison you will hear all day long in anything. So hope you appreciate it. Oh, gosh. All right, so then we go, and I don't even want to mention Kyler Murray and Tua. All right, both have horribly expensive contracts. Either it's a health issue or it's a leadership issue. I have no interest in bringing either of them in. Now, if we look at some of the free agents who are out there, Daniel Jones, he hurt his Achilles week 14. I don't see why he would leave Indianapolis. Plus, we don't know if he's going to be ready to start the season. I don't even consider that an option. Malik Willis, you know what? Very intriguing, but he's going to be, I think, maybe the most sought-after quarterback in free agency. In 4 appearances this season, he completed 86% of his throws, ran for 123 yards, scored 4 touchdowns. I could see him making $30 million a year. I really could. If Justin Fields could make 20 a year, 30 guaranteed, why can't Malik Willis make 30? Why not? Who's going to really commit to that? It's going to be very intriguing. Kirk Cousins, we talked about Kirk Cousins last week. Well, the news about that is he is going to get released by the Falcons. That was, I think, the expectation that most of us had. And you know what? He was still good last year. 61% of his passes were completed, 1,721 yards, 10 touchdowns, 5 picks. Falcons went 5-3 with Captain Kirk behind center. And I know some Jet fans are still bitter that he basically used the Jets years ago to get a larger contract from Minnesota. You know what? I'm not going to hold on to that anymore. I'm over it. I think it's a situation where Cousins' leadership, his accuracy, his size, it all makes sense. I think Kirk Cousins is about as logical a place as I could see him. The Jets and Cousins, it just seems like it's going to fit. I really do. I would give him a 2-year contract. And again, you could find a flaw in any free agent, in any trade partner. But ultimately, it's what weaknesses or shortfalls are you willing to accept? And I'm willing to take Kirk Cousins. I know he's a leader. I know he's respected. I know he's been productive. And I know he still has a few bullets left in the gun. I'm willing to take that chance. Jets Worldwide is here. I'm not taking poverty as my quarterback. I hear you, but you're going to have to drop some coin. Billy, Zach Wilson is a free agent. Do you want to give that another spin? Yeah. I could have gone to Zach Wilson, Aaron Rodgers also being free agents. Kenny Pickett, who has smaller hands than my Cocker Spaniels did back in the day. I don't think that's exactly going to happen. I would even think about Mitch Trubisky, but would he leave the comfort of Buffalo? We know he's capable. And if you want to give him 2 years, $10 million, maybe he would come over with a chance to actually play. We know he's not going to get much of a chance in Buffalo with Josh Allen there. Maybe he's looking for one last chance to start. It's very possible. Marcus Mariota, I'm not as sold on him as I think I was a little while ago because he does have a tendency to turn the football over. But I think with a lot of these quarterbacks, 2 years, $10 million, that's about what you're looking at for a number of these players. So then we have Derek Carr in the news. Now I'm just going to give you my opinion on DC. So I'm told. He's 34 years old. Supposedly, so the issue was he had a labrum injury. Now, I don't know if it was a full tear. I don't know if he had surgery. That's been kept kind of quiet. But I know he's been rehabbing furiously. And the Jets are a team that a lot of people are linking to Derek Carr. He would get to work with Musgrave, who was his offensive coordinator in 2015 and 16 when Carr had his 2 best seasons. Yes, his 2 best seasons were a decade ago. Now, in his last season when he was fully healthy, Carr went 5-5 with the Saints, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And in his 2 years in New Orleans, he had 40 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. That would make him a Ring of Honor member of the Jets. Okay. The problem is New Orleans does have his rights, so it would either take a trade or a release in order to bring him in. And I don't know if I'm willing to give up draft capital for Derek Carr. I'm willing to do it for somebody who's a little bit younger, who has maybe not yet hit his prime. The latest that we know is his shoulder is healed, but we don't believe that he underwent the surgery. So his rotator cuff was injured and his labrum was torn. And that came from landing on his shoulder in a game. So the surgery would have kept him out for the whole 2025 season. He chose to retire. And now supposedly the shoulder is responding very well. And so now there is speculation he will return in 2026. And as bad as the quarterback landscape is in the NFL and as weak as the free agent class is, if I'm Derek Carr, why wouldn't I try to come back? Yeah, so Rusty, to really answer your question, he did not have it surgically repaired, but supposedly he has been given a full, clean bill of health. Rusty does not want to trade for a quarterback, wants to fix the defense first, get a left guard and center and a kicker, get a quarterback in 5th, 7th rounds, and in 2027 go all in for quarterback. Here's the thing. It's not going to happen when you have a head coach who is on the hot seat. Aaron Glenn cannot afford to wait till 2027. The only way that could happen is if they build up the defense so much that you basically have a top 5 unit that is taking games over, changing games around, generating, 10 pressures a game on a quarterback. That's it, and giving the offense, 50 yards to work with, because they're forcing those short fields. And the problem is the Jets defense was so freaking horrific last year. Is that a realistic expectation? Even if they use 3 of the first 33 picks on defensive players, is it really going to turn around that drastically? I don't know. I don't know if it is. Yeah, and then sign Alex Anzalone, bring in Al-Qadim Muhammad, bring in Amik Robertson, bring in whatever players you want from free agency in defense. Can we expect a defense that's probably going to have 7, 8, at least 9 new starters? At least. And even if you keep Will and JJ, they're probably going to be in different positions because now they're playing the 3-4. You're keeping at starters, you're keeping Stevens, you're keeping Malachi Moore. A.Z. Thomas is becoming a star. You're going to have 9 new starters on defense. 9. Let's think about that. I just can't expect the defense to turn around that drastically in 1 year. 2 years, I can make an argument for it. 1 year, especially if you're switching from a 4-3 to a 3-4 with Brian Duker. I'm sorry, is Brian Duker all of a sudden going to become Buddy Ryan? Is that Dick LeBeau? Is that what we're going to see as Jet fans? I try to keep it realistic. I try to be hopeful, but I can't count on this defense winning games for the Jets next year while the offense just kind of flounders along like it did this year. So I'm sorry, I need a new veteran. I need an all-new quarterback room. I'm not saying trade a first-round or second-round pick, but I'm saying I don't want to see any of these quarterbacks back. Yeah, like we said last week, here's what I want to end up doing. Justin Fields.
He gone.
Tyrod Taylor.
He gone.
Brady Cook.
He gone.
Adrian Martinez.
He gone.
Hendon Hooker. I won't be too hard on Hendon Hooker. None of it was his fault. He could stay around. Grandizer, spin the wheel. He said, hey, we get 15 likes. We will. I see right now we're up to 11. So if you want to spin the wheel tonight, all you've got to do is hit that thumbs up button. That's all you've got to do. Is Glenn really on the hot seat? Wonder if Woody gives him 3 years. Well, we know it was a 5-year deal. It's 1 year. It's 1 year down. And I can't imagine Woody has much patience at this point. I know Aaron Glenn was his hire. It's his guy. I do think Aaron Glenn will get 2 full years. But if we see if we don't see at least 6, 7 wins with significant improvement by the end of the season, you can't justify keeping him. And I'm not one of those people who wanted to be one and done. But I can easily acknowledge major improvements are needed. I think the coaching staff will be better. That's going to help. Jets have a ton of cap space, as we know. We know they got a ton of draft capital. The opportunity is there. And that's why I'm glad they brought some veterans in to help coach this team. Jets Worldwide. For Adam, I hit the like thrice. Well, thank you very much, my friend. I do appreciate it. Danger Zone. Hey, Dane, how you doing? The answer to all our problems next month is Easton Stick. That's your story and you're sticking to it, right? Easton Stick. Is he a free? Wait, is he like 30 years old? This guy, Easton Stick. Oh boy. Yes. Easton Stick. What is he coming on your show next week? Is that why you like him? Hey, if he is, God bless you. Good for you, brother. Oh boy. All right. So I'm just going to go through this list of free agency quarterbacks here again, if I can pull it up. Okay. Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Marcus Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Jimmy Garoppolo. Again, I wouldn't even mind him, except he's always hurt and he's 35. Mitch Trubisky, Case Keenum, Trey Lance, Carson Wentz, Brandon Allen, Josh Johnson, Malik Willis, Kyle Allen, Teddy Bridgewater, Jeff Driscoll, Phillip Rivers, Sam Ellinger, John Wolford, Brett Rippon, Tyler Huntley, the immortal Easton Stick, Gardner Minshew, Skylar Thompson, Clayton Tune, Tommy DeVito, Sam Howell, Jake Browning. Make it stop! Make it stop already. The more I look at that list, that's all the more reason why I'm willing to make a trade for a quarterback. I really am. I know. Easton Stick. Yes. Oh my goodness. All right. So then we flip over to the defense. Let's talk about this. So we've got, it looks like we will be playing a 3-4 defense. That's what Carl Dunbar coaches. That's what he's always coached. So to me, that makes that much more sense that Arvil Reese would make sense playing outside linebacker. If that's your number 2 pick, it makes sense. Then what I think you do, you put Will McDonald at the other outside linebacker as a stand-up on the edge outside pass rusher. Then you can put Jamie Sherwood in the middle. You could sign an Alex Anzalone to play right next to him and quarterback the defense. Now you got your 4 linebackers. Now, what do you do at defensive line? Well, you got JJ at defensive end. I think he could play 3-4 defensive end just fine. And then you have Juwan Briggs and you have Harrison Phillips. I guess Phillips would play nose and Briggs would play the end. I can't say I love the front 7, but it's a decent enough one. I think at some point they would draft a defensive lineman or sign a defensive lineman to more suit the 3-4, but I could see that as a capable front 7. I could go with that. But the Jets hire Ryan Slowick as safeties coach, and Lord knows this safety room needs a lot of help. You have Malachi Moore and then nothing. So Ryan Slowick is Bobby's older brother. Now, Ryan started with the Packers back in 2003, so he's been coaching for a long time. He actually spent 1 year with the Jets in 2015. He was the assistant defensive line coach, so he was there with Mo and Sheldon and all those guys and Snacks. And he's been with Miami since 2022 in different roles. It culminated with him becoming defensive backs coach / pass game specialist. That was his job over the last 2 years. And then, of course, we got to talk about Seth Ryan. He's only 31 years old, has been coaching since 2019 when Anthony Lynn hired him with the Chargers as an offensive quality control coach. I hear that Seth's father is a pretty good coach. I hear his grandfather wasn't exactly too shabby either. Even his uncle wasn't horrible, but the uncle was not as good as the father, But he follows Lynn to the Lions in 2021, was retained as the assistant wide receivers coach, and that's when Ben Johnson took over play calling. It was in 2022. What that means is Aaron Glenn is familiar with Seth Ryan. So that is very encouraging. So then after Ben Johnson leaves, he moves on to an assistant tight ends coach under John Morton, who was the Jets' old OC back in 2017. So Seth Ryan, even though we still think of him as a kid, playing at Clemson, catching passes on the field 15 years ago with the Jets players, he actually comes with 7 years of coaching experience. Now, he's never been above an assistant position coach. So this is an opportunity for him to grow. Let's see how he does. But I'll tell you what, with all these relatives we're seeing here getting hired, man, the next coach the Jets might hire is Steve Belichick. Vince Lombardi Jr., is he doing anything? But you do see some different types of coaches coming in. We've talked about the veterans. We've talked about the young guys. You're bringing a Thomas Merkel, who was an offensive assistant with Frank Reich at Stanford. Ronald Booker for defense was in Arizona for several years with the Cardinals. So I do like we have more of a mix of youth and experience. Last year, I felt the only experience we really had was Steve Wilkes, and we know how that worked out. Okay. We were bringing in a lot of these like former players, like younger coaches, because hopefully they'd be able to relate to the players, like Dre Bly and Aaron Curry, and it could not have gone worse. It could not have. There's no question the whole defensive coaching room had to be overhauled, and that's exactly what happened. And let's look at it this way. You're like, oh, Aaron Glenn, look at him. He hired all the wrong coaches. He fired all his coaches. What would we be thinking about if he kept all of those coaches? And I'm not here to tell you Brian Duker is going to be some great coach, but I am here to tell you there's a lot of young coaches and there's a lot of veteran coaches, and I do like the mix. Grandizer would not mind Jimmy Garoppolo as a starter for the season. Who knows? Then he'd have to give up the reins to the rookie. I'm assuming the Vikings would be a good spot. Garoppolo, the thing is, Garoppolo gets hurt. People were talking in the comments about Carr getting injured. Jimmy G is getting hurt all the time, almost as much as Tyrod Taylor. Yeah, those might be the two most injured quarterbacks in the NFL, and Jimmy G and Double T. That's what I call them inside, Double T. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the Vikings right now, they've got JJ and they have? Max Brosmer. Yeah, the Vikings desperately need a quarterback that they're not going to be able to get. So, who knows? Maybe they try to bring in Daniel Jones. I don't know. Garoppolo could be interesting if, say, the Jets are able to draft the Nuss bus. Oh, Nussmeier? Yeah. Garoppolo is said to be a good team player via the bench. Well, the female Jet fans would love that. Because they just like because he's a good looking dude apparently, So yeah, again, I don't hate Garoppolo, but again, 35 and often injured. I mean, if you want to start him for a couple of games, that's fine. Put it this way, I would feel better about Garoppolo if we were drafting a quarterback in the first round, somebody we had a lot more hope in. I feel like we need a quarterback that's almost a little bit better, like a Mac Jones, who might be able to take it and run for a little bit. Jacoby Brissett. I know at least he's durable. Okay. I could deal with that. I just feel like with Garoppolo, I can't count on him to start 17 games. And then after that, like, would you have to insert Nussmeier? Hopefully it's not too soon for him. So it's very, very interesting. So is Seth Ryan now a defensive coach for us? Does that mean Rex isn't going to talk trash about our defense next year? Okay, so he is an offensive coach, not a defensive coach. So Seth is, what was he, the passing game coordinator? Is that what he was? Yeah, is he the passing game coordinator? Yeah, he's the passing game coordinator. So Seth is an offensive coach. So Rex will happily rip the defense if he needs to. So female Jeff fans love Adam from Wicker Chair too. Yeah, well, yeah, if they're drunk enough, desperate enough, and all that kind of stuff. So Rusty, didn't Jimmy G go to a Super Bowl? I'm pretty sure he did. I don't know. Did he play that one for the Niners? Yeah, did he play in that one? I think against Baltimore. Was that the one? Oh, yeah, and he's from Arlington Heights, Illinois, where the Bears Stadium may or may not be. None of us really know. Uh, 2018 was it 2019? Yeah. Oh, he played the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Yes, against the Chiefs. So that was the 31-20 loss. 20 of 31 passes, 219 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. But yeah, he had a knee injury in the but he had a knee injury during most of the playoffs again. So it was not great for him. So again, the health became a problem. And then 2020, he was never really healthy again. So I mean, yeah, Jimmy's just beat up, man. Yeah, he's just beat up. Yeah, so we definitely Grandizer's definitely a Garoppolo fan. Yeah, 31-20. That was the game, yeah. Garoppolo say if the Jets re-sign Brees, fix guard and center, get a tight end and wide receiver 2 could be a nice offense. Jets got their tight end in Mason Taylor. I'm not worried about that. They will keep, I don't know if they do need to figure out the 2 spots in the offensive line. But again, you've got some good centers coming out in free agency. And I'm not even expecting Tyler Linderbaum anymore. I fully expect him to be a Giant. But hopefully the Jets can keep either AVT or John Simpson. My preference is to keep AVT. And yes, the wide receiver 2 is very, very key. The wide receiver 2 is going to be enormous. People are going to be very fixated on quarterback. Maybe the second most important thing they're going to do is who is going to be that starting receiver opposite Garrett Wilson. All right. So speaking of the offensive line, I want to talk about this for a moment. Let's talk about Joe Tippmann. So he is eligible for an extension, and he is easily the most obvious candidate to get extended. He's made it known he would be interested. To me, the Jets have to lock him up now. Now. I want this done before free agency. I want this done in the next 3 weeks without question. Oh, Grandizer, you meant tight end too? Again, well, Frank Reich runs typically a 1 tight end offense. So it's nice to have a tight end too, but it's not as important in my mind. So, hey, Eagle Fang. Yeah, I saw you in one of the chats this week. You had a few opinions to say I saw over there. Hiring an ex-Browns offensive coach as their quarterback coach. Well, again, remember, it's not like he's only been with the Browns. He's been with a lot of other teams. Again, OC with Denver, Oakland, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Carolina, and Philadelphia helped develop Matt Ryan. So just because he was with Cleveland, again, hey, Shedeur Sanders became a Pro Bowler, and clearly it was because of Bill Musgrave. He turned Shedeur Sanders into a Pro Bowler, by God. So I'm not killing it just because he was most recently in Cleveland. All right. So keep in mind, again, I will say this about Josh Myers. I want him as a backup, nothing more. All right. He just a couple of numbers on Josh Myers. He took 7 penalties, 4th most on the team. He allowed 28 pressures. That was the 3rd most among centers. And he had the 3rd lowest PFF grade among centers. Josh Myers is a backup. The Jets need to sign one of those 2 guards and, in my mind, hit center in free agency. There's not a lot of good centers in this draft. You're not going to find Nick Mangold in this draft. So I want to address it, even if it's not Linderbaum. Connor McGovern from Buffalo be a very good pickup. Cade Mays is another one. Ethan Postage is another center. There are a number of them who would work out in my mind. So I would be very, very encouraged by that. But Joe Tippmann was so good at right guard, I just leave him at right guard. I really would. Will McDonald will be the toughest one. That is the other player who's eligible for an extension, but we know his production is down. Now, the first decision is if you're going to exercise his 5th-year option for 2027, which is projected at $15 million. And with a new defense, I'm curious how Duker, how Dunbar, how they see Will McDonald, how they see him fitting. Do they believe in him? Now, if you give him up, then all of a sudden you have another hole that you got to fill. And we know the Jets' pass rush is bad enough to begin with, and Will can get a pass rush, but it really does come in spurts. Maybe putting him in a 3-4 role might work. I personally I'm having a little trouble imagining it because, Saleh always saw him as that wide 9 guy. I don't know if McDonald is going to be a starter next year, but if you could get him for a decent draft pick, if you could get him for that 3rd round pick, a good 3rd round pick, I got to consider it. I've really got to consider it rather than pay him that $15 million. I'm open to I'm open to business if I'm the Jets. I really am. So, okay. Danger Zone says Will is dealt on day 2 after drafting a defensive end on day 1. Dana, going to a 3-4, Will cannot be a defensive end in a 3-4. He's not big enough for it. We know he can't play the run. He's an outside linebacker in a 3-4, maybe. If he isn't that, he's nothing. He may be he may very well be a one-trick pony. I don't know if he is any more than that. Rusty wants to sign AVT for league minimum. You can sign him for a very low base, but you have to put incentives in the contract that allows him to earn some money. AVT is not going to take a league minimum deal. He's too good. AVT, in my mind, is a top 10 guard when healthy. Obviate when he's healthy. Also draft a left guard and center too. Again, Rusty, you're not going to find a lot of centers in this draft. I would just hit it in free agency. The Jets have all this money to spend, and to me, center, it makes a lot of sense to hit in free agency. I want plug and play when it comes to center. This isn't a situation where we're, developing somebody. So if we look at centers, Connor McGovern, Ethan Posich, Cade Mays, Tyler Linderbaum, Liam Eichenberg from the Dolphins, Luke Fortner from the Saints, Tristan Colon from the Lions. There's a couple of other ones, but those are the main ones. Most of the other ones are Corey Levin from the Titans, guys like that. So, but there are easily 5 or 6 legitimately good centers that you could sign. So I would really like that. You heard a Chargers podcast. They want to sign AVT. Yeah. Well, ugh. Yeah. I don't want him to leave. I really don't. Eagle Fang, where are the reports coming from that Brees is likely a goner? Who's reporting it? I would wonder. And again, I'm not going to be brokenhearted if Brees goes because you could replace a running back. I don't want him to leave, but could I go with Braylon, Isaiah, and maybe a good two-way running back, somebody who's kind of in the middle? Yeah, I could roll with it. Hey, everybody can want AVT, but we have the ability to sign him first. So, Rusty, we could get Slaughter from Florida in the 4th. Yeah, not bad. Great name for an offensive lineman too. So, yeah, I wouldn't have a huge problem with that. But really, I've always been an AVT guy. I really don't want AVT to go. So, but if it happens, if somebody's willing to offer him a good amount of money, a good guarantee, if they trust him that much, then God bless him. I wouldn't hold a grudge against him. And Liam Eichenberg is not a center. He was played left tackle in college, could not do that in the NFL. Then they moved him to guard. That's right. Center, not trust as a starter. Yeah. The offensive line for the Dolphins typically gets roasted and skewered pretty well. But yeah, I'm on Over the Cap, and they do list Eichenberg as a center, which, a little bit odd, but yeah. But there's at least 5 or 6 legitimate starters. Jonathan Jones from CBS. Okay. All right. Well, let's get into, there's one other thing that I want to do here before we get into trivia. We're going to get into some off-season dates. So what I'm going to do is break down the dates to know over the next couple of months, mark them down on your calendar, put them in your phone, and because these are the dates we're going to want to keep in mind. So first of all, February 17th. So this is the first day the teams can use the franchise tag and transition tag on players. Now, Breece Hall, as we've talked about, is the candidate to use that tag on. Now, the franchise tag amount for a running back will be $14.1 million. Now, we talked about the running back salaries in the NFL. I would not pay Breece 14. I'd be hard-pressed to pay him 12. So I don't think it's going to happen. And the deadline to use it is March 3rd. So in essence, you have 2 weeks, and that March 3rd deadline specifically, 4 p.m. Now, you wonder how many players that the Jets are targeting who's going to get tagged. There's talk in Dallas that George Pickens will get tagged. In Indianapolis, talk that Alec Pierce will get tagged. Kenneth Walker, could he get tagged? Now, the one thing I will say that I'm encouraged about, Tyler Linderbaum, that's not happening. The franchise tag lumps all offensive linemen into one group. So whether you're a left tackle, a guard, a center, right guard, right tackle, same thing. They would have to pay Tyler Linderbaum if they tagged him $27.7 million. That ain't happening. Grandizer, you're totally fine. Now that I think about it, I remember seeing Eichenberg typically as a guard. I was talking about Over the Cap. I'm just saying they listed him as a center. So I was just rolling with it. So yeah, so they're not paying a center $27 million. Linderbaum, he either signs a new deal or he hits the market. Now, February 23rd is the NFL Scouting Combine, and this will be the first time we have a chance to hear from Aaron Glenn and from Darren Muji. I'm sure Darren Muji will say many, many stimulating, insightful things that will have all the beat reporters rushing to put everything out there on social media. So a lot of workouts, a lot of interviews. Robert Saleh in years past, he was criticized for not attending the combine. Aaron Glenn will be there, we understand. So that will be interesting. I'm not here. I'm not the type of guy who's going to watch the combine. Like, I don't need to watch these prospects run 40-yard dashes, but we'll see what comes out of that. And there's always somebody rising at the combine. Let's see what happens. Then we go to March 9th through 11th. So that's still about a month away. All right. So there's still plenty of time to get into free agency. So March 9th through 11th, that's Monday through Wednesday. That is the period to tamper legally with free agents. That basically 48-hour window. Now, the teams who tend to do a lot of business in this window, they usually aren't the teams, advancing to the Super Bowl. New England would be an exception. So can the Jets sell the rebuild? Can they sell the future direction? Can they do that? This is the window where they do it. March 11th, free agency begins. It'll be a Wednesday. I love it. That means March 11th, we will be doing a free agency recap for day one. Maybe we'll even have some breaking news during the show. It's happened before. Maybe it'll happen again. Now, the Jets are top, I think, 4. I think they're 4th right now in terms of cap space. Now, we have not seen – the biggest signing they had last year was Justin Fields. The only other – and then Brandon Stevens. Everything else was a one-year contract. So let's see what they wind up doing as free agency begins. Because typically the Jets have waited out the first day of free agency. Then day 2, day 3, they go after it then. And of course, in that first 24-hour window, you'll have certain fans complaining, the Jets aren't doing anything. Moosey's sleeping. JD sleeping. This one's sleeping. Shut up. Okay? The best moves are not always made on day one. Anyway, April 15th, we fast forward a month ahead. That is the draft prospect facility visit deadline. So by April 15th, you have to conclude all your pre-draft visits, all your testing, your interviews. As we know, the Jets have 5 picks in the first 4 rounds. By April 15th, they better have a board pretty much ready to go. April 17th, that is the deadline for restricted free agents to sign offer sheets. Now, the Jets have 3 restricted free agents in Cam Jones, Xavier Newman, and John Mechie. I think Mechie is most likely to stay. Okay? I think Newman maybe, but I think Myers is now your primary backup interior offensive lineman. Interior offensive lineman. So I think Newman, he could leave. I mean, Cam Jones, I really don't have any use for. My hope is the Jets do keep Mechie. I think he would have maybe a 5th wide receiver role. It'd be a depth role, but I think it's worth keeping him. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. The great Tigo's here. How you doing? The president of the Aaron Glenn fan club right here. The great Tigo. Check out his channel if you haven't. Tigo, always bringing the energy, always bringing the passion, always bringing the opinions. Much respect to you, my friend. I'm glad you're here. Let's see. Let's do a quick like check. How are we doing on likes here? Remember, 15 likes, and we will spin the wheel. We're still a few likes short. All right. So hopefully we'll get to do that tonight. All right. So then April 17th, deadline for restricted free agents to sign offer sheets. April 20th, 3 days later, your offseason workouts begin. Now, the one caveat with that is if you have a new head coach, you can actually start 2 weeks sooner on April 6th. So April 20th is when the Jets can begin. April 22nd is your draft prospect deadline. Firm deadline for all testing, interviewing, medicals, phone interviews, virtual interviews. That's it. April 22nd is the deadline. April 23rd through the 25th is the draft. So we know what the Jets have right now. Picks 2, 16, 33, 44. And then nothing in the 3rd round. Right now we're expecting 1 4th-round pick, 2 5th-round comp picks, a 6th-round pick, and then 3 7th-round picks. So when you don't have a 3rd and you do have 1 4th and then nothing in the 5th round till the very end, you better be hitting it hard with those first 4 picks without question. And then May 1st is the 5th-year option deadline. So that is the deadline that the Jets have to make a decision on Will McDonald. May 1st, do they exercise that 5th-year option or do they decline it? Personally, I don't really, even though I have been down on Will McDonald as of late, I do wonder how he's going to fit in this defense. What do the coaches think? Do they pick up that option? Or by then, will he already be traded? It's one of those things. There's like 3 different scenarios, and you can make a good argument for any one of those arguments. His New York accent. Shut up. And it all depends. Guys, I just got to tell you this. Just shooting straight with you. With my new job, I'm working down the country in North Carolina. I'm not talking Raleigh, not Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, Cosmopolitan area. No. This is the country. So today we did a party for Valentine's Day. Did like a little bit of a potluck. I made some pistachio biscotti. One old time, first time I'd ever made biscotti. Turned out beautifully, I believe. So I was thinking, all right, well, and I work in an office. Here's the thing with financial aid, which is what I do for a living. It's a very female-dominated business. My team has 7 women, the director who's a guy, and me. I think they hired me just for like gender equality is pretty much what they did. So the crazy thing, and some of these women, their accents are so over the top. He said, like they made Jezebel sauce to put on this like cream cheese. Like, what the hell is Jezebel sauce? And it's like a sweet, spicy pepper relish, which was okay. But one bite of that and a cracker, I'm like, I'm good. And then this other woman's like, so I do this one blend, honey, of it's cream cheese and it's got a little hot sauce and a few other things in there, and then you just kind of roll that into a little flour tortilla, the flour tortillas that they sell, and then you just kind of roll those up. You can't have just one of them, Pud. Can't have just one of them. You got to have 2, 3 of them because it just ain't enough ever. These are real conversations I have at work, guys. And they're great people, don't get me wrong, but it's like we come from such different worlds. I took one bite of that shit and gone. I needed water. It was so bad. It was so. As soon as I heard them say tortilla, like Sebastian Maniscalco does, like as a joke in a stand-up comedy, except she was doing it for real, I'm like, oh, this is going to suck. Oh, my God. Oh, so bad. Tigo, you angry? No, I've never known you. Tigo is the most calm, rational guy I've ever seen. Michael Nania makes him look comatose by comparison. Not quite. Thank you, Grandizer. I do appreciate it. Oh, guys, we have hit 15 likes. We will be spinning the wheel tonight. Yes. All right. First time we spin the wheel in a little bit, but we still have to do trivia, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Scott Foster, are they all married? They're either all married or too young for me. I'm sorry. I ain't going out with no 21-year-old, 22-year-old. That's not happening. Yeah. So, yeah, they're all married. And again, it's always a little tricky. I'll put it this way. I think it's okay to date somebody at work, just not if they're working too close to you. You know what I mean? Like some people are like, I would never date somebody who works at the same place I do. And I'm like, why not? At least they have a job and they passed a drug test. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. But if it's somebody I work with every single day, if you break up, yeah, that's awkward. That is awkward. Although I will say my boss, I can't, if she didn't have 5 kids and she didn't have a husband and she wasn't basically right over me. Anyway, no. Thankfully, none of them know about this channel. WickerMedia. I reckon that's right. Oh, God. Oh, boy. Oh, the pain. 21 is fine. That's not Epstein Island. Oh, my gosh. God dang, I love you guys sometimes, I swear. All right. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. I mean, hey, you go the reverse. It's pretty much legal now. That's a Lifetime movie. You get the 21-year-old guy and the 45-year-old woman. That's a Lifetime movie now, right? Adam, can you understand Xavier Leggett when he talks? Put it this way: Xavier Leggett, if you ever watched the old Weird Al Yankovic video, "The Smells Like Nirvana," where he makes fun of how no one can understand their lyrics, if Nirvana was a football player, it'd be Xavier Leggett. He is where I actually saw him at a hockey game, at a Hurricanes game. Like he had no idea what he was friggin' watching. It was hysterical. It'd be like me going to a cricket match or something like that. Just no clue what I'd be talking about. No idea what he was watching. But I got to give him this. He showed energy. I give him credit for that. All right, guys. I'd say it is about that time. That time every week. You know what happens. Let's go. Let's go ahead and get. Let's go ahead and get this out of here. So every week about this time, you know what happens. I head down into the labyrinth of Jets knowledge. I bust open the books. I dust off the Encyclopedia Britannica. I pull up the Jets dark web, and I, Watsu-K99, challenge you, the most loyal fans of the most loyal fan base in the National Football League. Just how much do you know about your New York Jets? So if you're ready, let's play. Let's play a little New York Jets trivia. And we have a packed chat tonight. This is one of the busiest chats we've had in a while. Had I known this, I'd have made the question a little bit harder. But let's see how we do. So what I'm going to do, as if you're a veteran of this channel, you know the deal. We put 5 minutes on the clock. I will track the time. Put your answers right down there in the comments. I will let you know if the answer is correct or if it is incorrect. So here is this week's question. We're going to start getting into some draft questions now. In 2025, the Jets drafted Armand Membu from the University of Missouri. Who were the two previous players the Jets drafted who played for the University of Missouri? Can you name those two players? That's right. No Googling, no looking up the Glencyclopedia Britannica. Make it harder. That's what she said. That's right. If only for 5 minutes. Danger, I'm having a Trailhead IPA with a pick of Squatch on it. Danger, who makes the Trailhead IPA? What brand is that? Bing. Bing is okay, though. Not Brady Cook. Not quite. No, Brady Cook was not drafted. I want to wake up in a city that never sleeps. Billy SBC, all I can say is I feel bad they had to live in Missouri. Ouch. Ouch. Tigo, Sheldon Richardson is one. Is Sheldon Richardson correct? It sure is. Sheldon Richardson is a correct answer. Very good. Tigo, if I had known Tigo was here, I would have pulled out a much more difficult question. Because Tigo knows his stuff. And then we will spin the first wheel, which will determine what wheel we wind up spinning. Oh, and rest in peace, James Vanderbeek. Very sad news. Fought a brave battle versus cancer. Rest easy. TH Brewing Company, 8% could be local. Let's see. TH Brewing Company, great for medium body, good carbonation. TH Brewing. Where is that? It's in Rockville, Maryland. Is where it's based out of. Okay. Okay. I have noticed that 8%. I have noticed like in Virginia to North Carolina, that's sort of the dividing line. Like the two never cross paths. I never really see Virginia products in North Carolina. I never see North Carolina products in Virginia. It is a hard and fast line with those two states. Rusty, who's the kicker? Dicker or something like that? Nope, it was not a Dicker. Grandizer goes with Brad Smith. Is it Brad Smith? It sure is. Brad Smith and Sheldon Richardson. Those were the last two players that the New York Jets drafted from the University of Missouri. Chat, fantastic job. And I would say, with that in mind, chat, you won this round. Very, very well done. Okay. So with that in mind, it is time to Brad Smith was the man. Indeed, he was. Isaiah Williams and Kenny Nwangwu were great and all, but have you ever seen them running back a touchdown after one of their shoes flew off? Tracy Scroggins passed away. I'm barely familiar with the name. Early 90s to 2000s. Yeah, I don't necessarily remember him as well. Yeah, a couple people passed away recently. Chuck Negron from Three Dog Night. Jeremiah was a bullfrog. Anyway, rest easy, Chuck Negron. Yeah, stayed sober for like 30 years after he fought a crippling heroin addiction. So, yeah, mad respect to him for staying sober for as long as he did. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and share the screen. All right, I got to pull this up on my actually the good thing now that I have a second monitor, I could just kind of drag this right over here. I could actually track everything through two screens. This is perfect. Okay. So here we go. So we've got the wheels wheel where we will find out what wheel we're going to do tonight. And notice we've got if I'm going to put an extra chat's choice in here where the chat gets to decide what wheel it's going to be. There we go. All right. Entries, advanced. There we go. Okay, guys. So let's figure out what wheel we're going to. Oh, you're thinking about Harrison Mevis? There you go. Hey, Johnny boy. How you doing, buddy? Dane, I couldn't imagine 30 years without heroin. Heroin or heroin? Which, yeah. All right. Let's spin the wheel. What wheel are we going to do tonight? Ooh, Jets draft classes. Okay, this is one we haven't done in a while. I'm glad we got a pretty good sized chat here because yeah, this one will not be the easiest, but we're gonna see how it works. So Jets draft classes. So I've got a bunch of Jets draft years listed on this wheel, including several players who were drafted, and we will blind rank them 1 through 10. So it's a blind ranking, so I will land on a spot. You will put where on the ranking you want to put it, from 1 being the best to 10 being the worst. And hopefully when it is all said and done, we have everything in order. I actually do want to check. How recently have we gone here? I know we have 2022. I don't think I have anything past 2022 because it's just a little bit too soon. I mean, I don't know. I could add 2020. Maybe should I add 2023? Let's see here. What was our 2023 class? Will, Tippmann, Carter, Israel's. What the heck? Let's add 2023. Why not? Yeah, so yeah, this is a live update. Will, Tip, Izzy, Carter, JBC, Zaire, Kuntz. Okay, there we go. All right. If you want to pick and we could do it. So pick a year. You get to pick where we're going to. Oh, did I freeze? Oh, shoot. Hang on. I think this froze real quick. Yeah, guys, just let me know if I'm coming in okay, all right? Because I'm pretty sure that I went out for a second there. Audio is good. You're freezing? Okay. Let's see here. All right. I'm going to do a quick. Okay. I'm good now. All right. I think I figured out what I need to do. All right. So I think it's the wheel that's giving me some issues here. Shoot. Yeah. This computer's not used to doing this. All right. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel. So yeah, let's just go. Let's just roll right with it. All right. So let's spin our first wheel in 3, 2, 1. And we land on 2003 Dwayne Robertson. Ooh, Dwayne Robertson, Victor Hobson, BJ Askew, Derek Pagel, Brooks Bollinger. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm gonna customize this and get the applause out because we do not need any applause for that crap. Yeah, let's go ahead and get rid of that. All right, so 2003. Oh, Danger with the $9.99 super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. I really do appreciate that. Often imitated, never duplicated. Get ready for Easton Stick. Thank you so much. Jets mess. What a cast of bums. Exactly right. Yeah, between 1 and 10, where are we going to put this? Now, yeah, Bollinger and Askew A+. I still remember playing Madden 05, and I was doing everything I could to get BJ Askew to basically be Jerome Bettis. So those were some of the players who stood out from the 03 draft. This was not exactly and don't forget with Dwayne Robertson, the Jets traded up. They traded two first round picks and a fourth rounder to move up to draft him. That's what bothered me so much. Okay, it looks like when I'm on this tab, the video is okay. When I go to the wheel is when it freezes. Okay, so that's what's going on here. Okay, so I'm just going to go over to the wheel, and then I'll click back on the actual tab. Does he have records with us? Yes, but they're mostly made out of vinyl. Okay, guys, where are we putting the 2003 class? I'm seeing 8. I'm seeing 7. Where on the 1 to 10 list do you want to put the 2003 draft class? And I'm telling you, some of these are great, some are okay, and a lot of them suck. So I'll give you guys a minute or so to put your vote down there in the comments. I'm going to have to really think these over. It's like if we get these in order from like best to worst, but as long as it's reasonable, we'll probably call it a win. All right. It looks like the 8s are in the lead right now. Dame wants to make it a 7. All right. I got you, man. I got you. That's what's up. Johnny, a little bit harsher, going with a 9. All right. I'm going to give let's go about 30 seconds. Can I get the 2000 draft class if it hits? Yes. Yeah, that's no problem, Rusty. That's no problem. Chris Bassett and the Baltimore Orioles are in agreement on a 1-year, $18.5 million contract. So Bassett to Baltimore. That AL East is loaded. I mean, you Yankee fans out there, I know if Harlan was here as a Boston fan, yeah, that'd be good too. But yeah, that AL East that is as competitive top to bottom as I can remember that division being in years, many years. Man, you can make an argument for any one of those teams almost making a run this year. All right. We are going to put that at number 8. So the 2003 class is number 8. I'm going to put each one in the chat. There we go. Rest in power, Mox. Exactly. All right. Let's go back to the wheel. Let's spin number 2 in 3, 2, 1. And we land on 1981. Oh, what? Okay, this was a pretty interesting class. So it was led by Freeman McNeil, one of the best running backs that the Jets ever had. Played his whole career with the Jets. Can't be too upset about that. Now, 1981, back then, you had a 12-round draft. So some of the players who stood out besides Freeman, Marion Barber. Can you believe the Jets draft? Can you imagine nowadays if you drafted 2 running backs with your first 2 picks, the way you would get skewered? But Marion Barber played 85 games, played from 81 to 88. It was okay. Outside of that, not a whole lot of excitement. Ben Rudolph played 88 games, defensive tackle who I barely knew. Tyrone Keys, defensive end, played 74 games. Their 4th-round pick, Al Washington, was out of the league after 1 season. So, and then in like the second half, there's absolutely nobody of any notice whatsoever. So you do add Freeman McNeil. Marion Barber is okay, but after that, you're really not looking at a whole lot here. So where are we putting this class? I see a couple of 5s here. Yep, this is definitely on the strength of Freeman McNeil. Rusty goes 6. I'm leaning right around 6. I think that's a pretty good place to put it, but yeah, chat, yeah, go ahead and put your votes in. By the way, Dane currently in the lead as the number 1 poster on the night. Looks like Scott's number 2, Billy is number 3. All right, looks like we're kind of torn on 5 and 6 here. Yeah, it's gonna be a tricky one. Yeah, to get this all right, 1 to 10. But yeah, as soon as Ben Rudolph's name came up on the screen, probably most of you are like, "Who the hell is that?" That would have been my thought too. All right. I think I'm just leaning. Yeah, Freeman was good, but I want a good class, not just one great player. I'm going to go 6 for this one. 1981. It was a great year. Great year for America. I was born. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, let's go to spin number 3 in 3, 2, 1. Oh, and we get Al Toon. So just a few years later, 1985. So that was also a 12-round draft. The Jets did draft Al Toon, played 107 games, 31 career touchdowns, had a fantastic career. Just a shame that the concussions ended his career very prematurely. After that, you've got Lester Lyles, defensive back, played till 1990. 10 interceptions in his career. That's a good decade for the Jets nowadays. Outside of that, you had Donnie Elder, defensive back, played 82 games. Then you had a 4th-rounder in Doug Allen, who never even got into the league. And after that, you had a bunch of mid-round picks. Probably the most notable was Rich Miano, the defensive back, played from 85 to 95, came out of the University of Hawaii, played 135 games, and also Kerry Glenn. Kerry Glenn was drafted in the 10th round, played from 85 to 92, 74 games. So you don't have like great players. I mean, to me, this is like the Freeman McNeil class, maybe just a little bit better because you had, Lester Lyles, Marion Barber. That's pretty good. Kerry Glenn. It's a little bit deeper. And the fact that you got a good player in the 10th round, I think there's something to be said for that. So let's see. So Russ, you were born in 85. All right, cool. All right, so 5-3. I just spent my last $10 on Kleenex. Oh boy. 5-3-5-5. All right, I'm seeing a lot of 5s. I think that's about right. Yeah, I'm feeling 5 here. I was today years old when I learned there were 2 Marion Barbers. Yes, there actually are. There's 2 Marion Barbers. There are 2 Tony Pages. There are 2 Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, but there's only 1 Danger Zone. That is a fact. That is just a fact of life. All right. Yeah, I think a 5 is pretty good here. All right, 1985. Okay. Very good. All right, so that's 3 spins down. We've got at number 5, 1985, number 6, 1981, number 8, 2003. Let's go on to our next spin. Spin number 4, 3, 2, 1. Cheers. And we land on, close. We have gone to 1977. Oh, baby, what a draft. We're going old school with some of these drafts today. This will go down as one of the most amazing drafts the Jets ever had. Again, a 12-round pick. Their first-round pick, Marvin Powell, left tackle from 77 to 87, played 133 games. Their second pick, Wesley Walker, played from 77 to 89 with the Jets, 154 games, over 8,300 yards, 71 touchdowns. Their third-round pick, Tank Marshall, he sucked. The fourth-round pick, Scott Durking, the running back, played 110 games. Didn't have a huge career, but did score 23 touchdowns. But there was a 6th-round pick out of Temple by the name of Joe Klecko, and he made the Hall of Fame. What do you even need to say? Part of the New York Sack Exchange, 78 sacks, 155 games, amazing. But it doesn't just end there. You go a little deeper. Dan Alexander, drafted in the 8th round, starting guard from 77 to 89, played 192 games. Matt Robinson, backup quarterback, not bad. So even though you had a few players towards the end who never made it to the NFL, Bob Grupp, punter, played a little bit. Kevin Long, the running back, I mentioned him. So you have a pretty impressive draft class here. So guys, where are we putting this one? To me, this is going to be in the top 4, and there's no question about it. It's going to be pretty hard to beat this. It's going to be pretty hard. I mean, Powell, Walker, Klecko, man. Yeah, you had a third round bust, but you had a Hall of Famer, two other Ring of Honor members. And Alexander, very underappreciated too. So right now it looks like we've got a 2 going on. Looks pretty balanced out. The 1 to 3, but the 2s are winning it. Yeah, I would go definitely 2, and I could, if you wanted to make this number 1, I'd have no problem with it because I think there's maybe only, you're not going to have Joe Namath in this. I don't think Namath's in this. You're not going to have Curtis Martin because he wasn't drafted by the Jets. So when you factor in there's no Curtis, you factor in there's no Namath, there's no Maynard, all of those types of deals. Most of the best Jets of all time, you're not going to. Guys, I'm going to make an executive decision here. I'm giving this the top spot. I really am. I just don't think we're going to do better than this. I really don't. And even if we get, the class with Sauce, Brees, JJ, I'd still take this one. I really would. So, and besides, that class had Michael Clemens. So, what the hey? So, I'm putting 1977 in the number 1 spot. So, sorry guys. Hope it'll turn out well. And if it doesn't, then if we get a better class than that, that's on me. Okay, let's go to spin number 5, and we are going to spin the wheel in 3, 2, 1. Oh, precious Jesus. Oof. Well, this is an interesting one. 1984 is a very weird draft class. Now let's talk about this. So, again, 12 rounds. So, the Jets had 2 first-round picks in 1984, and they drafted 2 immortal players in Russell Carter and Ron Farrow, who combined for 84 career games. I mean, Carter at least had a couple interceptions. Ron Farrow was out of the league after 20 games. But in the second round, you drafted Jim Sweeney, the late great Jim Sweeney, center from 84 and played in the NFL till 99, played 228 games in the NFL. Then in the third round, you had Kyle Clifton at linebacker, all-time leading tackler in New York Jets history. There's something to be said for that. After that, you have Tony Page, the running back, who I referred to earlier. And he played from 84 to 92, had 29 career touchdowns. So, so you do have some decent players, but you do have a few who just, did not work out. And when you fail that hard on 2 first-round picks, even with Swift, with Sweeney and Bell, I don't think you could go too high on this one. So, for this one, I can't put it above, I don't think I could put it above 85 or 90, 81 even. Yeah, Dane's going 9. I see a couple of 7s. Yeah, I think 7 or 9 makes sense on this one. Yeah. So again, with 2003, that's the class with Dwayne Robertson and BJ Askew, and was Victor Hobson in that? Yeah, Victor Hobson, Brooks Bollinger. Honestly, I could go 7 or 9 and I would be okay with it. It looks like the chat's leaning towards 7. Okay. So we will make the 1984 draft our number 7 spot. So we have filled in spots 1, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's where we are right now. All right, so we got to fill in spots 2, 3, 4, 9, and 10. So we got to do really good and really lousy. Okay, spin number 6 in 3, 2, 1. Round and round that wheel goes. And we come to a stop on 2017. All right, so this is one of the drafts that I was actually able to go to in Chicago. And this draft, it's hard to get a real feel for it. So I'm just going to run through the names. Jamal Adams, Marcus May, those are the only 2 players still active in the NFL. After that, you have just those 2 amazing wide receivers in Ardarius Stewart and Chad Hansen. Jordan Leggett at tight end. Dylan Donahue, I'm pretty sure had a DUI. He was like driving the wrong way in the Lincoln Tunnel, that idiot was. Eli McGuire. Jeremy Clark, who was the first Clark defensive back the Jets had, who was horrible. He played 2 games and he was done. And Derek Jones, who played 4 whole games in the NFL. Yuck. I'll put it this way. Adams and May have combined to play 195 games in the NFL. Everyone else in this class has combined to play, between 7 players have combined to play 84 games. That's 12 games per player from the 3rd round to the 6th round. So you did get 2 very good safeties, but after that, you got nothing. Nothing with a capital N. So with this one, Dane, we've already filled up spot 6. We have spots 2, 3, 4, 9, and 10. Yeah, Jamal Adams playing the NFL last year. Guys, we don't have 6. Here's where we have 2, 3, 4, 9, 10. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's coming on the chat, but 2, 3, 4, 9, 10. That's what we have left. Danger wants to go 4 for Jamal Adams and Marcus May. Okay, Rusty wants to go 9. This one's going to be pretty divisive. I'll put it this way. If we go to the 85 draft, let's go back to 85 and see if you would rank this class better than you would 85. So in 85, we added Altoon. We added Lester Lyles. We added Rich Miano, Kerry Glenn. But then on the other hand, we drafted guys like Donnie Elder, Doug Allen, Troy Benson, Brian Luft, Tony Smith, and Jeff Deaton. So it's a tough call. We got a return on investment on Jamal. You know what, Dane? You make a good point. We did get a lot back for Jamal Adams. We helped turn that pick into AVT, Garrett Wilson, those guys. So you know what? If you wanted to make it a 4, I could see the argument. If you want to look at it from a bigger perspective, I could see it. But yeah, I mean, the first 2 picks were good. Everything else just completely failed. You know, Jets Worldwide, talking trade values, you know, if you want to, you're more than welcome to. I think it's only fair. Coin flip it. I got a coin somewhere around here. And never mind. I took all my coins to the bank. Who cares? I'll give you guys 30 more seconds to break the tie. I will say this. We got to fill in 2, 3, 4, 9, and 10. Do I think we're going to get 3 classes better than 85 with Altoon and whatnot? I don't know if we will. Honestly, I'm thinking 4. I'm thinking 4. It feels a little bit crazy, but yeah, it's a stretch, but I'm gonna go with it. All right. So just to recap where the list is. So spot number 1, 1977. Number 2, blank. Number 3, blank. Number 4, 2017. Number 5, 1985. Number 6, 1981. Number 7, 1984. Number 8, 2003. Numbers 9 and 10 are blank. So we got to fill in 2, 3, 9, and 10. So 4 spins to go. And spin number 7 in 3, 2, 1. I like how the cursor on the wheel changes color as the space changes, you know? Okay, we go to 1996. This was the one time the Jets drafted first overall in the NFL draft. And of course, they take Keyshawn Johnson from USC. The Jets only had 6 picks that year. They drafted Keyshawn. They drafted Alex Van Dyke. He lasted 42 games. But then you add Ray Mickens. You add Marcus Coleman, who combined played 300 games in the NFL. One from Texas A&M, one from Texas Tech. Hugh Hunter from Hampton, who never made it to the NFL, probably because he played at Hampton University. And then Chris Hayes, who actually played 84 games in the NFL. So you have some pretty good acquisitions. And then Keyshawn, I believe, turned into, with that pick, I think we got Chad Pennington with that pick. So 1996, we could go 2, 3, 9, or 10. I got to tell you, I don't think this is a bad class at all, really. So, guys, where are we going to go? 2. I see a lot of 2s and 3s. I mean, it's going to be tricky if we land on the class of 2000 or 2006 or 2022. There's still some good ones, but there's still some all-time bust classes. Who knows? All right, looks like the twos have the slight lead right now. Any more news coming out right now? Ooh, okay. Right now the twos have the edge, so right now that's where I've got to put it. And keep in mind, Mickens was drafted, I think, in the 3rd round, and Marcus Coleman was a 5th round draft pick, and he had a good 10-year career. All right, I'm gonna make this number 2, 1996. I'm gonna say we're not gonna beat it. All right. So we have spots 3, 9, and 10 left to fill. And so far, I think we're doing okay. So here we go. Spin number 8 in 3, 2, 1. Well, get the bottom of the wheel ready to go, because this is the 1990 New York Jets draft, one of the worst they ever had. Their number 2 overall pick, the immortal Blair Thomas. It didn't get much better. 2nd round pick, Reggie Rembert, played 28 games. Number 3, Tony Stargell, played 94 games as defensive back. After that, it was Troy Taylor in the 4th round. He played 7 games. It did get a little bit better. You did have in the 6th round Terrence Mathis, very good wide receiver, although most of that was in Atlanta. In the 8th round, you had Roger Duffy, who was a pretty good guard for about a decade. He hung around for a little while. But I'm sorry, this is the Blair Thomas draft. And then when you had Reggie Rembert and even Tony Stargell, at defensive backs, I mean, he had 6 interceptions in 6-7 years, whatever. But yeah, I'm sorry. I think this is pretty low. I don't know if it's 9 or if it's 10, but it damn sure ain't number 3. I got to look up Tony Stargell. How long did he actually play with the Jets? So Tony Stargell was with the Jets for 2 seasons before going on to Indy, Tampa, Kansas City, and Chicago. So 2 years with the Jets as a cornerback. Yeah, he did have 2 interceptions. So, hey, I guess that makes him that would have made him a number 1 cornerback for us. All right, so let's see. How are we doing here? Let's see, 10, 9. Yep, Troy Taylor. Yep, it's that Troy Taylor, Scott, the Stanford coach who was fired before Frank Reich was hired. That's right. Johnny's going with 10. Danger's going with 9. Dame wants to save his number 10 for 2020 or 2021. Oh, boy. Yeah, well, it hurts. It hurts. I mean, this one just does not have much redeeming value at all. It just doesn't. I mean, Roger Duffy is probably the one, I mean, Terrence Mathis was probably the best player, but again, he was barely a Jet, and the first 4 picks were clear and distinctive failures. So yeah, I'm going to make this number 10. It's that bad. Is that bad? All right. So 10, 1990. All right, guys, we've got spot number 3 and we've got spot number 9 left. That's all we have. So let's spin the wheel. Spin number 9 in 3, 2, 1. And I think we're gonna fill in the number 9 spot here. Pretty, this isn't the worst class, but 1980 was Johnny Lamb Jones. Also, how about that? Another number 2 overall pick who was a complete bust. So yeah, he had 61 games. He did score 13 touchdowns, which I think would surprise some people, but was not worthy of a number 2 overall pick. But also in that class, you do have Darrell Ray, played 72 games, and you add Lance Mel, one of the better linebackers that the Jets ever had. So I don't think there's any way we can make this number 3. I think this has to be our number 9. I don't think there's any way around that. I guess my thing is I have to look. How would I compare this to 2003? I mean, Dwayne Robertson, Victor Evans. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I got to be honest with you. I don't think there's any player in '03 that's as good as Lance Mel. So, yeah, I think that one's going to be a little bit out of place. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that one in there at spot number 9. Yeah, it's number 9. Yeah. Yeah, I just don't know. Yeah, I just don't know if I could say it's a worse class than a worse class than 3 just because of the presence of Lance Mel. And who from '03 came close to being Lance Mel? No one. All right, well, one more spin. So hopefully we get a good one here. So we got to fill in spot number 3, and we're going to spin it in 3, 2, 1. So we're on somewhere between 1996 and 2017. And we land on 2012. Quentin Coples, Stephen Hill, Demario Davis, Josh Bush, and Antonio Allen. Oh, boy. Yeah, I think – was this the Terrence Scanaway draft class now that I think about it? Yes, Terrence Scanaway. That's right. Jordan White, Robert Griffin, the offensive lineman, not the quarterback. Yeah. Hey, Quentin Coples, boy, that did not work out. 16 and a half sacks. Never quite worked out the way it should. Stephen Hill was good when he faced the Bills and no time else. Demario Davis, we know how good he is, but yep. And then after that, the Jets had no picks in the 4th and 5th round. Then it was all 6th and 7th round picks. And the only one that really turned out well was Antonio Allen. I think he had the pick 6 of the moat, from New England, the most overrated of all time, right? I still remember that play. But I mean, to say that this class better than 2017 with Adams and May? I don't know if I really can. So yeah, let's go ahead and stop sharing. Let's go ahead and get out of there. So 2012 is spot number 3. Seb YC said save number 10. Dane, I got to be honest with you. I think we fell a little bit short in 2 different spots. I would have put 2017 ahead of 2012. I would have put 1980 ahead of 2003. So overall, we did win the trivia. But when it comes to the wheel tonight, what can I say? That's a loss. Got to call that one a loss. All right, trivia. Quentin Coples' jersey number, that was 58, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure. What, do you have the jersey? Yeah, I'm positive Coples was 58. Right? And amazingly, Coples is only 35 years old. Yeah, played not too far away from where I am at the University of North Carolina. After the Jets went to Miami, went to the Rams, and WickerMedia has no news on him. Oh, 98. I could see the 8. Yeah, 98. That's right. Still a couple choices. All right. Thanks, Rusty. I appreciate it, man. All right, guys. Well, that was 2 solid hours that we did tonight. That was fun, and I thank you guys for making it all possible. I'd like to thank the sponsors, which I have none of, but that's all right. Just Optimum Nutrition, because I always have their bottle on camera. But yeah, if they pay, I'll turn the background off so you can see the bottle clearly. So that is what is going on. So I think next week we'll try to start getting into free agency a little bit more, breaking down certain players. This was the week to focus more on quarterback. Maybe next week we'll look at different offensive players that might fit in. So I'm thinking that's what we'll do. Then the next week we'll do defense, because remember, we still have a month until free agency comes. So we got to buy our time for a little bit of content. But yeah, the turnout tonight was fantastic. I love it. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your week, and you know the deal. I look forward to seeing all of you right back here next week with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.